Perhaps the worst visual distraction that churches can be guilty of is that of having bad design. So today we're going to talk about some of the basics of graphic design. Welcome to Church Media HQ. We are your church's one source for graphics, websites, videos, and all things creative. I'm Luke Clayton. Thanks for joining me today. Make sure you're subscribed so you're the first to know when we release new content like this. The greatest accomplishment of a designer is not to create graphics that everyone thinks are good, but rather to design graphics that no one thinks are bad. I'm going to say that again. The greatest accomplishment of a designer is not to create graphics that everyone thinks are good, but rather to design graphics that no one thinks are bad. Here's the thing about anything visual. Styles and preferences are subjective based on a person's age or demographic, or even maybe based on their mood that particular day. Not every design or everything visual that is created is going to resonate with every single person. There's always going to be haters. But when it comes to our design, we can maybe resonate with more people, make something that connects with more people, by not so much focusing on making something that's mind-blowingly incredible as much as trying to make something that just doesn't look bad. Now, look, I'm not going to give anybody an excuse to say, well, I was just trying to make something that doesn't look bad, and then you wind up making something bad. This isn't an excuse for bad design. No, quite the opposite. It's saying, let's make the goal of our design to be, to not necessarily be great, but to not be bad. And how do we do that? Well, that's where we take a very simple less is more approach, both in the way that we create graphics as well as in the quantity of output. Remember, the whole point of this series is to help you streamline what you're doing at your church so that maybe you don't need to create as many graphics. So for example, if we are moving through our framework, when it comes to worship, well, a lot of times they'll be like, well, what do we put on the slides? I hear about people that they say, well, we want to have a different graphic, every week or whatever, the different background loops and whatever. Well, how about you make that, not that there's anything wrong with that if you can do that effectively and efficiently, but why not just simplify what you do and have a nice graphic that says welcome to church that you show, maybe throughout the service, and then whenever you're having your congregational songs and worship time, maybe you've got some type of background image that can be used as a background for those lyrics, or maybe a background even for sermon points. The point is to just have something that's simple that looks really nice, not something that you feel like you have to update constantly. No, it's something that you can use for weeks or even months or maybe even a year or more at a time. Because again, people aren't going to look at something and go, "Oh, that looks so that looks so good and awesome and it's new." No, they just are going to notice that it doesn't look bad. When it comes to teaching, this is where graphics are great for sermons, and this is why, from a marketing and media perspective, preaching in series is a really good idea, because then you can create one graphic for a series that is a visual connection for whatever topic or theme of that series, that every time people see it, subtly they think, oh, this is what we're talking about today. This is what I can expect to get out of today's sermon. And again, it's just a really nice way to show and display your thoughts visually in your sermon. When it comes to connection, well, obviously, it's a great idea to develop graphics for events and small groups, ministries, and programs. But again, don't feel like you've got to reinvent the wheel every time. Find a nice graphic that, for example, works to represent a certain ministry, and don't hesitate just to continue using that every time that ministry is brought up. So let's talk about a little bit more hands-on. What can you do? Well, let's circle right back to that idea of what we're doing for our small groups and different ministries. Maybe you say, well, we've got this different men's meeting every month, and we want to have a nice new graphic every time. Well, no, what if you just created let's say it's a men's prayer breakfast. What if you just created a nice men's prayer breakfast graphic and reuse that same graphic every time that it rolls around? Yeah, sure, every year or two you can cycle through and get another one, but don't feel like you've got to continually update that every month. You got a ladies' Bible study, same thing. A nice graphic for your ladies' Bible study. You got a kids ministry activity. whatever it is, fill in the blank, figure out how you can say, I've got this nice template, this nice go-to. And yes, we're going to refresh that every once in a while, but we're also not going to hesitate to go back to using that. This is where branding and stuff is really, really awesome. And we are going to talk about that at some point in this series. But for now, what we're talking about is just figuring out a way to simply develop graphics to represent the different connection opportunities at your church, your sermons, your sermon series, and like I said, even welcoming people to church and having background lyrics. Just keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Use it, and don't be afraid to reuse it. Now, what can Church Media HQ do for you? Well, look, if you're looking for graphics and you don't want a lot of effort into creating them and so forth, well, that's why you need our free graphic of the week. We are sending you a new social, sermon, or seasonal graphic right to your inbox every single week, and it's completely free. You can, if you're not already signed up for that, you're going to make sure you get signed up for that. And of course, you can access our full graphics collection and get a website. You can also get retitles of our graphics, custom design, and more. That's available with our Church Media HQ memberships. And of course, you can view all of our resources right there at churchmediahq.com/start. So now we've got some nice graphics. Maybe we've taken them and, like I said, we're starting to use them. We're starting to put those graphics on our website, and now we're, showing them on our slides in our church. And we've got these nice, kind of little collection of graphics that we can use. So now we're going to look at how we can use those more online, in particular with our social media. We are your church's one source for graphics, websites, videos, and all things creative. I look forward to seeing you next time right here on Church Media HQ.